Hey, instead of Steve, please like and subscribe. Please click on the Decuba's icon, click on subscribe. It's 100% free. Well, blood in, blood out. Anyway, it's one of my favourite people, Dry Creek Wrangler, an older man with an older man's perspective on things. Currently, he's talking about, the title is, you can see, Be Needed But Don't Be Needed. No, Be Needed But Don't Be Needy. He's also talking about this concept of masculinity in the modern world. I skipped past all the politics that he was talking about a little bit earlier, so we're going to get to the meat now. Let's go.
That I didn't need her. Out of turn here, she'll very openly, very publicly, she has said, we've been married for 32 years, and the biggest difficulty that she has had throughout our entire marriage is her sense that I didn't need her. Now, I'm going to say something here, and I want you to listen. I don't want you to knee-jerk, okay? I want you to just stop and listen and contemplate and meditate on what I'm saying, okay? I never have needed her. But I've always wanted her. Now, let's stop and boil this down. I mean, you're taught by books, you're taught by movies, you're taught by television programs, that I need you, I need you. Well, if I need you, then I'm keeping you there for me. So you are all about me. It's complete selfishness. So if you have developed a relationship to where you emotionally need your spouse, your significant other, that's not healthy. That's not healthy. Because if you need them, then you're staying with them for what you can get out of it. Do you see where this can go? Do you see how deep this can go? All right. But you want to be with them. You want them around. That's a whole other planet. That's a whole different world. Okay. We need, fellas will go into relationships and they'll need. And
I think what he's talking about in a roundabout way, without actually saying it, I guess, is just being secure in yourself, having the good foundations about self, about being ready when you look in the mirror to take on a relationship, to take on the world, I guess, in a broader sense. But this is a relationships type thing. But yeah, I guess it's about, for me anyway, my interpretation of what he's saying is there's a lot of broken people out there, and you can't rely on somebody else to fix you. And if there is something wrong in any kind of relationship with another person, is that reliant on you. You know what I mean? So like emotionally and mentally reliant upon you. And I say I guess what I'm going to say is just be selective about people who have got that overt need. You know what I mean? About whether that is something that you can possibly satisfy, because you can't make another individual happy, or you can some of the time, but if you're expected to for eternity kind of fill that missing gap in them, that is impossible, and that's not going to be sustainable. I'm not sure that's what he's talking about, but yeah, and to go into a relationship because you actually say you want to be part of that relationship, it's that is a healthy place to be. So let's see what else he's going to say.
Guys, we it's part of the sphere these days. Everybody talks about how difficult to find a good modern young lady who's not whacked out on all these new concepts and stuff. But if we just step back, and I'm not talking about, I'm treading in muddy water here. I'm not talking about all this incel stuff, okay? But there's a big difference in between wanting a good woman and desperately needing any woman. One is weakness, and the other is a superpower. All right?
Yeah, no, I think I know what he's saying now. I think I know where he's going. I think, yeah, if you are... Listen, people, we're not built to be solitary. We're built to want love. Okay? But if you don't have that kind of peace within yourself and you're kind of desperate and you're just a bit too needy for it, then unfortunately that goalpost is always going to be moving and getting further away. So yeah, inevitably you're going to have to try and fix self and be happy in yourself and build your confidence and oh my gosh, yeah, and I'd say refine your technique and how you approach people. And but yeah, it's going to be 2 steps: refining yourself as an individual, then also refining yourself as a potential candidate, respecting that etiquette and listen to people, being able to facilitate a conversation, good body language. I say listening to what they want and just matching it up to whether it matches your wants. and your red lines and things like that. And there's many elements. But let's see what else he's going to say.
Need to start working. You need to start working. You need to start trimming stuff in your life. You say trimming it for what? Trimming away the need. You don't need an iPhone 14 Pro Max. All right? And with all the hundreds of dollars a month you're spending on that. You say, well, I do need it because I've got this going. Well, stop that. Whatever this is, stop it so that you don't need it. So then you don't need the phone. So that you can get a $40 track phone. So that you can free up several $100s a month. So as you work down the line, you don't need that paycheck. You say, well,
okay, I guess he's talking about materialism now, you know what I mean? And let's say you invest so much in, you mentioned an iPhone, and do you really need it? If that thing didn't exist, I'm sure you'd cope just fine. If we went back about 10 years to those phones, it would change the way we interact in our day-to-day. I'm sure we'll be absolutely just fine. And we just have a different kind of balance. So, okay, yeah. A concept of materialism. Let's move forward, kind sir. Thank you very much.
Gotta have a paycheck. No, you don't. Money's good, all right? And we can take everything too far. All right, you need money. But you don't need near as much money as you think you need right now. Which therefore you don't need near as much big a paycheck. You say, Dwayne, I gotta make the payment on this house. Let me ask you a question. Truth. Do you have more house than you really? I didn't say it's convenient. I didn't say more shelter than you need. Well, if you don't need all of that house and you need all of those payments, then you don't need that paycheck. And if you don't need that paycheck, you don't need that job. Okay? You can settle for a whole lot less pay, less job. That's a whole lot easier to walk away from when things get stupid and crazy. We don't be needy. You have more shelter than you need. Well, if you don't need all of that house and you don't need all of those payments, then you don't need that paycheck. And if you don't need that paycheck, you don't need that job. Okay? You can settle for a whole lot less paycheck and a whole lot less job. That's a whole lot easier to walk away from when things get stupid and crazy. We don't be needy. We don't need to need friends and people. I'm not against friends and people. I have a friend. I have a friend. I have a friend. If he called me right now, we only talk, 2 or 3 times a year. But if he called me right now, I said this before, and he's like, Dwayne, I need a kidney. I'm on the next plane down. You can have 2 of them if you need them. That's my friend. All right? Whatever he needs. All he knows. And it's vice versa. But I have a lot of people who come along and they call me their friend. And they say they want to be friend. Then they stand on their head and show their rear end. And then they're all shocked and bothered because...
I think now what he's talking about... I say he's had tighter videos, but and I say I'm kind of reading into things and possibly reading into it a little bit too much. I think he's talking about at the core of men, there's a point where we realise that we are self-reliant, that we are ships in the ocean. You know what I mean? And there's other ships that we love and we may well draw near. And that's probably going to be our wife and kids. Should we have a wife or kids? And that may well be close family like brothers and things like that, but essentially even with all of that, we are ships in the ocean, you know what I mean? And just acknowledging the fact that, you know what, at the end of the day, whilst we do accept other people around us and we're happy to have other people around us, we are 100% fine in our own autonomy as well. There you go.
Hey, I didn't need him as a friend in the first place. Don't need them. I'm not needy. If you want to be my friend and you want to act like a friend, okay. But I don't need a friend. And this is some hard stuff, okay? This is some hard stuff. But I don't need. You take what's going on here. People start panicking about if they do these mask mandates and shut down the COVID stuff. Well, if they do, obviously, our business, the school here is going to shut down. That's okay. I don't need the school. All right, the school's paying for itself, but I'm not making any money off of it. So I'm not needy. I've got myself set up the YouTube channel. Do you need the YouTube channel?
So I was just trying to check about when this video was released. He's talking about COVID shutdowns and things like that. Gosh, that'd be years ago. I didn't know it was that old, this video. But nevertheless, let's see what else he's got to say.
I'm enjoying it, and I love helping the folks that I'm helping, And I mean, if it comes down and somebody gets stupid and somebody nasty and whatnot, I can shrug and walk away. The ability to shrug and walk away is a man's greatest ability. It is a superpower. Now, it doesn't mean you walk away without pain. It doesn't mean you walk away without regret. It doesn't mean that you walk away without deep sadness. It's not a lack of feeling. It's not a lack of emotion. It's not a lack of caring. It's just a lack of need. I would like to not hurt. Now think about this. Whether it be physically or emotionally, I would like to not hurt. But I don't need to not hurt. I can
Got it. I got what he's trying to say now. The whole video is called "To Need But Not Be Needy." So yeah, we need, or we'll welcome people around us that can support us and encourage us and add to our lives. So yeah, that's sort of like a need, but we're not needy in as much as we're not reliant upon it as men. I think that's what he's saying. Let's go.
live with pain, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain. I can live with pain. So I don't need to not hurt, and you don't need to not hurt. Now, we would rather not hurt. We would prefer to not hurt. We don't go looking for hurt. We don't go hoping for it. We don't go stirring it up. But if that's the price of freedom, if that's the price of stability, then you need to pay that price. Now, when I say freedom, we're rolling into the other side. Okay? We need to be unneedy. But the other side of the coin, which keeps us out of narcissism, which keeps us out of selfish indulgence, which keeps us out of hedonism, which keeps us out of that place that we don't want to go, is we need to be needed. We need to be there for those who need. There's a big difference between me needing somebody and me being available and making the sacrifices that someone who needs me. That's the problem with a lot of these modern takes on masculinity. They get the whole part down. Well, you need to not need anybody. You need to stand up here. You need to be blah, 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 blah. But they come to the point that they're totally living for themselves. That is the problem with most of these things. And most of these men who are on these paths today, they are completely and totally living for themselves. And what they do for you, and I'm not speaking about anybody in particular. It's just across the board. All right. What they do for you, they'll do for you because they're going to get something out of it. All right. They're going to get something out of it. So they get paid for it in one way or the other. But there's people around you that are needy. And in order to not become a self-centered narcissist, the whole thing about true, healthy, natural masculinity is we are there to protect and serve. Now, you'll see that written on the sides of police cars, but that's the mantra. That's what it boils down to. We are there to protect and serve. And if I need to be protected, if I need to be served, how am I going to protect and serve somebody else? You get on an airplane and you fly and the stewardess gets on.
Okay, so he's talking about the need to be needed. That's like a traditional provider and that whole kind of protect and serve, as he's saying. And I guess he's kind of getting to the breakdown of masculinity in society. Okay. So he's touching on something like that men intrinsically want to protect. I don't know. Intrinsically, I mean, you will with your loved ones. I don't know if there's about anything intrinsic. That's what he must be talking about, like these like nuclear household, and and his family in general, broad brothers, sisters, mom, dad, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, to an extent. I'm just thinking about how many kids actually kind of reciprocate what they're given. Your parents give you everything in the world, bring you into the world and give you anything, get you to a point. How many kids actually think first thought, yeah, I'm going to make sure my mom's not struggling, my dad's not struggling, I'm going to check on them. So not a lot, basically, a few, but not a lot. So some just give words and no actual kind of content. Some will, some give some anyway, I don't want to get into everybody. So who is he really talking? He must be talking about wife and child, if men have wives and children. I think he's just getting drawn into the emasculate, this anti-masculine sentiment, maybe. Anyways, go on.
There, we're not supposed to call them that these days. The flight attendant, my apologies, ma'am. The flight attendant gets on there and says, now, in the case of a sudden loss of atmosphere, the oxygen mask is going to drop from the overhead bin. If you're with a child or an elderly person, make sure you put their mask on first and then put your mask on. We're there to protect and serve the weak. And then we'll take care of ourselves. Why? Because we're not needy. We'll take care of them first. Because we're not narcissistic. We're not self-centered. We're not living for us. We will take care of them because they're needful.
No, we protect them first because that's the social norm. Basically, social norm that women look after kids, so you have to look after the future generation, and that's the way it's always been. But that was in the days where you didn't have all the services and support services that we have now. And that's really back in the days when men were not really supposed to or expected to take any active role in raising a child. even if that child happens to be a young man. Let's see what else he's going to say.
And then we will take care of ourselves because we are not needy. Let me wrap that up again. We will take care of them because they can't take care of themselves. They need us. And then we will take care of ourselves because we are not needy. Now
That's interesting. Okay, so again, if he's talking about wife and child, there's a whole kind of destruction of family in terms of the nuclear family and the fact that society builds a dynamic where men are surplus to requirements. You know what I mean? And his perspective is more kind of traditional and very different from that. I don't know if it's intentional. Yeah, the need to be needed and the others that are weak we're protecting and providing for them. Yes. I think in the concept to say somebody's got to raise the children, and realistically, if you're both working, that's going to fall down to somebody else you can afford to employ. I guess I don't know if that makes that person, the third person, the weak. And your partner wouldn't be weak, but in the more traditional setting, that either the mom or the dad is going to look after the kid and be supported by the others, does that render them weak? Well, obviously it renders them needy because they need support from another. You know what I mean? As a part of a unit and part of that social contract. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I think he introduced some concepts to think about. I took my own take on it. That could be completely wrong. Anyway, let me know if you have a perspective on where you think he's going with all this. And please like, subscribe. Daddy Steve and I am out.